Good morning. Welcome to Civic Trust, the civic devotion for Nigerian citizens. This is day 14, and we are going to be reflecting and meditating on the topic of leadership and example. On the Morning Trust, we believe in that it is possible for Nigeria to be peaceful, to be prosperous, and to be ascendant on the world stage. And we believe in the capacity of every citizen to live sacrificially and to love each other as we would love ourselves and to act for the public good. We're going to be talking on leadership and example today. As always, we base our reflections on passages from the holy books that define the lives of citizens in this country: the Bible, the holy book of the Quran, and African philosophical compilations from which we draw the wisdom of our ancestors. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, the Bible says, set an example for the believers. Timothy is talking to followers of Christ in that book, and he says, set an example for the believers. In the holy book of the Quran, 16th book, particularly verse 90, the 16th book of the Quran, verse 90 says, indeed, Allah Almighty commands justice and good conduct. Indeed, Allah Almighty commands justice and good conduct. He's talking to those who occupy positions of leadership and influence. They are responsible to carry out justice and live lives of good conduct. And in African philosophical compilations, we have an adage which says, the fish becomes rotten from the head. We have a wisdom saying that reminds ourselves that, you see, when you see a rotten fish, where did it begin from? Always from the head. It's talking about leadership and the role leadership plays in a healthy, peaceful, prosperous, and ascendant society. When you see a corrupt society, look to its leadership, because people draw examples from leaders. So that's why we're reflecting on this today. You see, people think that leadership ends with giving commands and instructions, but that is not the case. Leadership is influence. Influence. You are influencing people towards positive lines of actions. And it doesn't just end with telling or instructing them on what to do or showing them the way. Your leadership extends to your lifestyle, even when you're not occupying or sitting at the table, presiding over a meeting, or speaking to the cameras, communicating to the public. Even when you are living your ordinary life, even in your privacy, even when you're not in your uniform or your robes, your distinguished, garbs that symbolize your position or title, when you are as ordinary as it gets, people are still observing you. You want to know why? Because that's the way human beings are wired. We are imitative. We role model. We model those who we admire. We imitate those who we admire. People become standards in our lives, and then we want to act like them because we like the results that their actions have produced in their lives. We like the results that their values have gained for them. We like the results that their principles have attracted in their lives. So people want to embody you. People want to emulate you. People want to imitate you. People don't only want to obey you and the things you say. They want to obey what you do. That's why we even say to parents, it's not about children don't just obey you. Children imitate you. So you see, that obedience comes from, when you are looking at them, when you give them an instruction, how do they comply? But do you know that when you walk away and you are absent and your words are no longer guiding them, or you're not scrutinizing whether they are following or complying, what do they do with the rest of their lives? They are imitating all the standards that you set for them. That's the power of leadership. Leadership erects standards for others to follow. Leadership sets precedents, behavioral precedents. It sets, signals that this is what works, this is what is right, this is what is acceptable, normal, rewardable. And so people begin to follow the patterns of your life. So that's why we have to be very conscious when we are leaders. It's not only when you're under the spotlight that you behave yourself. People are checking to see whether when you are not in the spotlight, your actions match your persona and the things you've said when you were under the spotlight. Are you consistent? Do you practice what you preach? Or you are preaching one thing and then when you are away by yourself, you are acting contrary to the things you yourself preached? People will see that. And immediately they will lose trust and your influence will. People will see when your actions are negative and you remain in power. Then they will say, so this is the way to remain in power. So let my actions also be negative. That's how powerful our actions are. When we are unkind as leaders and we remain in positions of power, we're signaling to people that it is to be acts of unkindness are what get them to positions of power. When we abuse our trust, when we bully, when we manipulate, when we cheat, when we acquire greedily, and just do all kinds of unharmful, unhealthy things, and yet remain in power, again, we're sending signals to those who are impressionable, those who look up to us, those who are influenced by us, that these are the right standards. We are changing what ought to be and replacing it with what is selfish and normalizing acts that are selfishly driven as right standards. So that's the danger. When our lives as leaders reflect wrong principles, wrong values, wrong behaviors, wrong conduct, it erects those behaviors as foundational character of a whole set of people, a whole group of people. Soon a whole group of people begin to imitate that practice or that conduct. And next thing you know it, fairness, equity, justice, they're thrown out of the window. And it becomes a society of who is strongest, who is most connected, who is most powerful, who is richest. And then it becomes a society of, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? That's what happens when leadership imitates wrong principles. When leadership imitates strong men principles, it becomes a society of, do you know who I am? So it's not about what is right across board, what is fair to all persons. What do we act to others as we would want others to act towards us? No, it's about what can I get away with because of my power and my influence. And that's the effect of bad leadership over time, consistently over time. It replaces the social order. The principles that govern social order are no longer based on fairness, the dignity of every person. It's now based on the principle of the strongest, the mightiest, the most influential, the wealthiest, the loudest. And so everybody begins to strive towards those categories, towards those markers. Am I the wealthiest? Am I the strongest? Am I the most influential, the most connected? And then they want to announce those things as though those things are virtuous. We have to return back to the Omoluabi principle. The individual with the excellent, well-rounded character. That is the highest compliment. Good leadership has to be conscious of the examples that it lays for others. As I said, it's not only when you are wearing the symbol of your authority, when you are in uniform, if you're a uniformed leader, when you are wearing your emblem of authority, or holding your staff of authority, or wearing your cap or crown of authority. That's not only when you are a leader. Even when you are outside of scrutiny, you are in scrutiny. You are being observed. And so be conscious. Be consistent. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. Don't have double personality. Don't be one thing for the public and another thing in private. Be a good leader at home, in the workplace, in your community, in your church, in the public eye. Be a good leader all around. Let your words, let your actions, let your conduct influence people to right behaviors, to right conduct also. Demonstrate the right things. Operate under the right principles of fairness, of equity. Treat people with dignity. Respect human life. Treat it as sacred. No matter how, vulnerable people are, don't abuse or exploit their vulnerabilities. The fish rots from the head. It is what you have presented that people are mirroring. People are mirroring you as leaders. That's why when leaders cheat and get away with it, society begins to cheat. That's why when leaders manipulate and steal and get away with it, society begins to manipulate and steal as the new normative behavior, the new normal. It becomes the new normal. When leaders obtain by false tricks, obtain by deceit, when leaders bully, exploit, seize, confiscate just because they have power and influence, and they can control the coercive for the military, they can control the police, they signal to others that is normal behavior. So those ones to begin to hire thugs and hire violent gangs and say, go and seize so that you can enforce your will. It all starts and ends with leadership and the examples leaders lead. And we too must be careful to guard our hearts against those who are influencing us, members of the society. Be careful who you are admiring. Young people, be careful who you are admiring. Are you admiring them for the right reasons? Admire them for the right principles, not just for the results. Sometimes those results are built on wrong principles, and those principles are harmful even to you. Those principles are harmful even to you. You might like how attractive their lives are, but if that life and that lifestyle is built on the wrong principles, if you emulate those same behaviors, it will harm you too and others in the society. Because imagine all of us striving to be respected just for being rich. All of us striving to access basic rights, basic services just because, and the only principle by which we can gather is on the principle of wealth, influence, connection. That's mayhem. That's lost. We have lost our peace. And we must do everything to avoid that. It matters. May God help us to lead the right way, to lead with influence, to lead with character, to lead with the right examples. May God help us to truly be responsible when we hold positions of influence, to lead with moral responsibility. Dear God, we thank you for a new day. We thank you for another opportunity to experience life on earth today. Help us to live purposefully, kindly, contentedly, brilliantly, and fully. Guide us, protect us, teach us, correct us, and inspire us. At the end of today, may we bring glory to your name and to our great nation, Nigeria.